Hey everybody, welcome to a special President's Cup edition of the Opening Tee podcast. I am your host, Jason Roslin. I'm going to be joined a little later on after I get through some of the housekeeping stuff by Matt Jones at Matt Jones TFR on Twitter. We're going to talk about some of the statistics from some previous President's Cup and try and do some of our own predictions. But first, we're going to talk about why I'm here. The President's Cup is not a contest that normally had DFS contest or DraftKings contest for it, but with the new agreement between DraftKings and the PGA Tour, they've gotten the go-ahead to put out contests. Sorry about that little tongue twister there for me. They were a little modest, and maybe because it's in Australia with a very early start. Our early start is Wednesday at 3 o'clock, just on a sidebar there. So they give us $50K to first place for a $150K guaranteed. $8 is your buy-in there for the biggest GPP. Goes down from there, a $10K and a $5K to first for the higher dollar buy-ins. So certainly something to take a look at. And plus, they give us a totally new format. So we pick our normally 6 golfers that will be competing of the 24, but this time there's a captain spot. So as we're used to for fantasy football showdown contest, the one single game contest where we get a captain spot, this is golf's version of that. Really fun and exciting and interesting. We'll break that down a little bit later with Matt Jones. So I'm going to open it up as I normally do with the foursome of facts. Maybe get you to know a little bit about the President's Cup. This is the 13th time the event has taken place, with the USA winning 10 of the first 12. The Internationals only winning 1 and tying 1. The one they won, though, was in 1998 in Australia at Royal Melbourne, where the event is being hosted again here. 4 other times, however, the Cup has come within 3 points. So heading into the last day, those Sunday singles, if you're not familiar, which we'll go over here in a little bit, the format, the Sunday singles actually mattered. So I would say just about 50% of the time Sunday singles mattered, and maybe the other 50% the USA already had it locked up prior to, or at least pretty much locked up. Anyways, 30 total matches. I just mentioned there's 12 singles matches on Sunday. There's 18 total team matches, 9 four-ball matches, and 9 foursome matches. I'll quickly go over those. The 9 4-ball. 4-ball means there's 4 balls in the air per group. Every golfer will play their own ball. However, they play in teams of 2, of course, and the lowest score from those 2 golfers is submitted. And compared to the other 2 golfers on the other team, whoever has the lowest score wins the hole. And now foursomes, a little different. Foursomes should really be called alternate shot, because that's what it is. One guy hits one shot, the next guy hits the next shot, all the way through. So that's called foursomes, and the first one 4-ball. 9 matches of each of those. At least, and here's my last, so we've gotten 3 facts out there, and my 4th foursome fact of the week, I'm going to predict at least 7 golfers will play all 5 rounds. So I just mentioned there are 30 total matches. 12 Sunday single matches are played on Sunday. The others break out 5 4-ball matches in the first session, 5 foursome matches in the second session, then 4 of each of those in the third session played on the same day. So it's the third and fourth session there. So we call them 5 sessions. And I'm going to guess that at least 7 playing all 5 rounds. Over the last 5 Cup formats, we've had an average of 6.4 golfers play all 5 matches. So that includes the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup. So definitely going to have a couple of golfers play all of the matches for their respective team. Certainly building blocks that you want to use for your DFS lineups. Okay, let's learn just a little bit about the course here. It's being played at Royal Melbourne, as I mentioned. It was founded in the turn of the century, then redesigned somewhere in the 1930s by Alistair Mackenzie, most famously maybe the architect for Augusta National. Plays as a par 71, just under 7,100 yards. A ton of risk rewards. Just a perfect golf course for match play format. Those golfers that have the ability to step it up on their driving distance will certainly have a little bit of an advantage. All short par 5s this week, with only one reaching over 550. So a ton of distance can be had here with the driver this week. And also 2 drivable par 4s that send it over a bunch of the native sand bunker-ish kind of waste areas that Patrick Reed just had some problems with a week ago. So that should be interesting this week. It's near, so just for geographical purposes, it's near Port Phillip Bay, obviously the big bay over there in Australia and Melbourne. But no holes actually border the water, so not going to be a coastal course or anything like that. It may seem like such from the native areas, but I don't believe you're not going to get any actually scenic views of the bay or anything like that. So let's head right into the field and learn about the 24 golfers that are playing. After that, I'm going to bring in Matt Jones here to talk to me about we're going to first talk about the DraftKings points, how it works out for each match. Then we're going to go into some match play statistics, give our guesses on who we think are going to be playing in all of the matches, who might be left out, and talk for about 10 or 15 minutes. So, okay, quickly, we'll go through Justin Thomas. From top to bottom, Justin Thomas comes in at 16-2 on the captain, 10-8 on the regular. Xander Schauffele, 15-3 on the captain, 10-2 on regular. DJ, 14-1 on captain, 9-4 on the regular. Doing just the American side first. Tiger Woods, 12-6 on the captain, 8-4 in regular. Patrick Cantlay, 12-3 on the captain, 8-2 on the regular. Patrick Reed, 11-7 and 7-8. Webb Simpson, 11-1 and 7-4. Ricky Fowler, 10-5 and 7,000. Gary Woodland, 99 and 66. Bryson is 8,700 and 5,800. Followed by Tony Finau, 8,100 and 5,400. Matt Kuchar is the caboose at 7,800 and 5,200. Followed by the international side, they are led by Adam Scott at 14-4 and 9-6. Hideki Matsuyama is second at 13-8 and 9-2. The match play or international side horse. I mean, this guy seems to play every match every time he's out there. Louis Oosthuizen, 13-2 on the captain, 8-8 on the regular. Then is a bit of a dip, actually, in terms of who's going to come next. It's Mark Leishman at 9-3 and 6-2. Followed by Sung J M, 8-4, 5-6. Cameron Smith, is wedged in between them, 9,000 and 6,000. Then it drops off even further, going to Abraham Answer, 75 and 5,000. Followed by the bottom ring, Joaquin Niemann, 6'9 and 4'6. Hao Tong Lee, 6'6, 4'4. And then the last two, Adam Hadwin, 6,300 and 4,200. Followed by CT Pan, who is certainly looking for some form here as he enters the President's Cup, 6,000 and 4,000. So that sets the stage on who we're going to try and break down in the next segment. We're going to give our best guesses on who's going to play the most golf, something that you'll certainly want to be building your fantasy lineups around. So stay with me until then, and we'll be back in just a few seconds for you guys. It's actually about a minute or two for me. Cheers. Okay, so we're back here with the second segment of the Opening Tee Special Edition podcast for the President's Cup, joined by Matt Jones at Matt Jones TFR on Twitter. Matt, thanks for joining me on short notice to talk about the President's Cup and I guess act like there's another puzzle to at least solve, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been begging for this whole captains thing for a while, so at least they're giving a little test run for this. We thought we were done for the year, but they snuck this in on us. Yeah,
and it is. It's great. I mean, I love Cups, so I love watching the Ryder Cup, love watching the President's Cup, and obviously you throw in DraftKings, and it's a match made in heaven, at least in my eyes. So it's great. Obviously, they're testing it. It being in Australia, I think they probably went a little lackadaisical on their contest sizes, but testing it for the Ryder Cup, obviously, next year. So that's a perfect segue. Let's talk first about the DraftKings points for those that have not played the match play or have not checked out the scoring. I'm going to give you a quick rundown. You're going to get 3/4 of a point for both a halved hole, and you're going to lose 3/4 of a point for a lost hole. You're going to get 3 points for winning a hole. You're going to get 5 points for winning the match. You're going to get 2 points for having the match. And then if you win the match and you've got holes left, you're going to get 1.6 points per hole left. And then there's 2 bonuses, 5 points for winning 3 holes in a row, and then 7.5 points for never losing a match. Never losing a hole in a match. That rarely happens. Sometimes you can see it happen, but very, very rarely. So just wanted to get that on and out there. So now we'll move into a couple of stats that we looked at before we came on. So, Matt, I'll give you the first crack at some obscure match play stats. I love some of the things that this brings out. Take it with a grain of salt or use it for analysis. To you and I, it doesn't matter. We just like hearing about them.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We were talking earlier about just sort of like who plays, like what happens when people sit out the first round and different things like that, which obviously we'll have that information before lock. So as far as playing all the matches, every year for the last 3 President's Cups, there have been more international players that have played all 5 rounds compared to the U.S., which I feel like that kind of makes intuitive sense. Like there's the end of the end of the roster for the international team isn't always the strongest. So I think that probably makes sense. On that side, Jason Day and Louis Oosthuizen are the 2 that have played every single match, all 3 of those President's Cups, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and Adam Scott, who's been a member of the team for all of those as well, has actually struggled a little bit. So he hasn't played all of the matches, but certainly used Louis Oosthuizen. And Brandon Grace was his partner for most, but I noticed that Louis Oosthuizen never sat at all, loves the team format, has a game that is just perfect for this. So I mentioned off the top about the team format. We got a 4-ball and foursomes, and to those that don't play golf, it's definitely silly little idiosyncrasies of the game of golf, why we use those terms. But it's a team format, and whether you're relying on Louis Oosthuizen to make a 4 because you're out of a hole, or Louis Oosthuizen's got to hit the next shot for you, that's a pretty good thing to have. So no surprise there in terms of Louis. So how about on the other side? I know you had a stat there. Golfers that don't play in the first session. So, and like Matt said, we're going to know this at midnight on Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, whatever you want to call it. We'll know who won't be playing the first session. What are their stats for the rest of the tournament?
Yeah, so as far as just the President's Cups go, I looked at both the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, but for the President Cup, the only person who has scored more than 2 points for the whole event that sat out the first round is Sung Moon Bae a few years ago. So
good old Sang Moon Bae, 2015, I think it was, right?
Yeah. So everybody else has pretty much been just stuck on 1 or 1.5 points that has done this. There are a couple of Ryder Cup exceptions, like Henrik Stenson did it this past the Ryder Cup, but for the most part, it seems like the guys who are being left off first are not faring quite as well. Most of them have a couple of halves and maybe a win, but that's about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they have the practice rounds these first couple of days, and we'll actually talk about that. We saw some pairings out there today, so maybe a little glimpse at the way these captains are thinking. And certainly these practice rounds, obviously, that's really all these captains have to go off of. I mean, sure, they can look at recent form, but I can imagine these practice rounds are really important to the captains to see how their teams are playing and faring. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll bring up my couple of stats, then we'll give some guesses, and then we'll talk about those pairings we saw. So maybe about 5 minutes or so. First off, above Louis Oosthuizen, who, like you said, has played every single match the last 3 President's Cups. On average of the last 5 Cups, including Ryder Cups, 6.4 golfers have played all 5 matches, and 8.2 golfers have played in only 3 matches. So a little top-heavy. It seems as though, in my analysis, that once a team gets on a roll, that team continues to play. So when you look at the American side, last couple of years, Spieth and Reed have been a notorious team except for that last Ryder Cup. And actually, Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler, prior to Thomas and Spieth playing together last time, were a powerhouse team for a couple of years. So let's talk about that for a second. Of the golfers on each side, let's give our top 4 that we believe will play all 5 matches. You can start.
Oh man. So I mean, I think there's a very small chance that Louis doesn't end up doing it again.
I agree. Yeah.
Otherwise, honestly, like I would imagine, just from like a narrative street sort of deal, I feel like at least a couple of the Australians are going to be on that list as well.
Yep.
So I would imagine that the odd man out of that crew would maybe be Cam Smith. Doesn't play all the rounds, but the rest of the Australians I would imagine would. And then I don't know. I don't know. What are you? How are you making sense of this? Because I'm having a hard time picking 4 here.
Okay, so I got Louis. I think we both agree there. I think his game is too well suited. He's shown that when it comes time for these cup matches, he takes a lot of pride in it. And we've seen Louis withdraw from some big time spots. There's no withdrawing here in the President's Cup for Louis Oosthuizen. He brings his mattress all the way to Australia or whatever he's got.
Can you imagine DFS Twitter if he did withdraw from the President's Cup?
Oh my God, it would be meddling. It would be terrible. So Cam Smith, I think, is really interesting because he's taking the antagonist role. So I almost feel like he's setting himself up for a Rory McIlroy or Thomas Pieters type role with coming at Patrick Reed as hard as he did. And if you haven't seen it yet and you're listening, Cam Smith basically says he has no remorse for Patrick Reed and cheaters like him, and basically was just demeaning the overall play that happened with Reed there in the Bahamas. So maybe if Cam Smith can get hot, maybe he does take that Adam Scott position, and Adam Scott goes back to only playing 4 of 5, which we've seen the last couple of times. And we've seen Scott struggle in this format too. So with Jason Day dropping out, though, he's definitely the draw for the local Australian crowd. There's no doubt about it. Adam Scott is. Mark Leishman is well loved too, but Adam Scott more so than Leishman.
Right.
So, yeah, interesting. I think if I had to pick, again, if you look at Matsuyama, he hasn't played all 5 matches ever either. So that's concerning to me because it seems like Adam Scott and Hideki Matsuyama, to me, would be the best players on the international side most times that these guys tee it up. So I found that interesting how those 2 guys who most would consider the 2 best players on that side not playing all 5. You think that trend continues this time around as well?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, Decky's so weird that it's just like, it's so hard to really like get into his brain. I almost think, I don't know, does he have like a favorite partner in this group? Like who?
Sang Moon Bae, man. Sang Moon Bae. But Sang Moon Bae is obviously not playing.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. So it's like, I can see a lot of, logical pairs here. And I'm curious to see if, maybe he gets hot with somebody and he does roll, but I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't play all 5.
Yeah, so we've got today's pairings was Mark Leishman, Abraham Answer, Byung-Hin An, and Hideki Matsuyama. Oosthuizen was with Scott, Hadwin, and Neiman. Cam Smith was with Sung J M, Haotong Lee, and CT Pan. So I'm going to give my quick analysis of that. First, I think that Haotong Lee and CT Pan are probably the biggest question marks. So I'm not surprised to see Ernie Els just kind of put them together and say, okay, you guys are going to get that, 1-2 starts, maybe 2 starts if you win that first match, right? But I like the Cam Smith and Sung J M team. I feel like that could end up being a dark horse team that ends up playing all 5 matches. I mean, we see Sung J M play 55 events a year.
Yeah, he's not going to be tired.
He won't be tired. So I think Smith and Im, if that ends up being a team, I really like it. Any quick thoughts? This literally was coming out as we came on air, so not a lot of time to digest it. And do you make one more thing before you talk? Byung-Hin An and Hideki Matsuyama. You think Ernie Els pairs those tee to green guys up, or do you think he splits them between the good putters of Leishman and Answer?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that they would be split. I wonder if Decky ends up with Answer. Is sort of like my gut feeling.
Yep.
Just from seeing that group of four, which I think that would. I think both of those pairings would make a lot of sense as far as strengths for each of them go.
Definitely. All right, let's turn quickly to the American side. Justin Thomas. I think it's no doubt he's going to play every match, whether he plays it with Ricky or he plays it with Tiger. And I think that maybe means that Ricky is going to sit out one and Tiger's also going to sit out one. I don't think he's sitting JT at all, though.
No, I don't think so either.
Now, Patrick Cantlay's first appearance in a cup, I think his game is made for match play. I think the opponents are going to hate him. He just doesn't miss golf shots. But he didn't play well at the Hero. He kind of came back a little bit. Xander Schauffele is kind of in that same boat. Didn't play great at Hero. This is his first cup. These two guys are stars. I love them. Each and every week they pretty much teed up. But do you think that Tiger goes with the rookies here and plays them all five? Or do you think Tiger's going to have more of a momentum feel to who he picks?
No, I think... I would imagine that the international team is a little bit more scripted.
Me as well, yeah. That's
and the U.S. team is a little bit more fluid, just because you can see like very obvious pairings, like we were just talking about for the international team, and for the U.S. team, I feel like you can pick like three guys for any one guy, and you'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's a good team.
I think if you put Webb Simpson and Gary Woodland together, and we can transition into the pairings now because that was one of them, and DJ and Kuchar was the other two in that one. Webb Simpson and Gary Woodland to me is probably the team that makes the most sense. You put Simpson with a guy that can drive the ball so far. You could put Simpson with Finau as well. Neither Finau or Woodland can putt, so that's what you're hoping for. There is that Woodland hits the approach or Finau hits the approach and Simpson's putting.
Right.
But I could see either of those two teams being dynamic. Now, I'll give you my two that I think get left out is I don't think Bryson DeChambeau is going to get much love at all. I don't know that he knows where his game is. And I'm nervous that Patrick Reed and Patrick Cantlay played with Thomas and Woods today. Cantlay and Reed also played in the Zurich Classic together. So I'm nervous that if that team gets off to a bad start, that Woods might just bench them due to their form. Due to Cantlay being maybe out of form and Patrick Reed, having too much limelight for this cheating thing. I'm a little nervous about that pairing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. I'm curious as to what they're doing with that middle group that the PGA Tour tweeted out. The DeChambeau, Finau, Fowler, Schauffele. I don't know that I love some of the possible combinations there personally.
Yeah, and Fowler is a horse. There's no way he's sitting. He's been so good in these. So there's no way he's sitting in round one. We can give our guesses for round one sitting. For me, I think it's actually going to be DeChambeau. And I think it could be, if DJ is not healthy, it's going to be DJ, right? And we'll know right away where DJ stands. If Tiger puts him right out there, then I don't think it's a problem. If Tiger sits DJ in round one, I'm concerned, and it might almost be a full fade for me on the DFS side.
Interesting. I was kind of thinking, as far as DJ goes, that he would probably want to get him out early.
Yeah. To test it.
And just say, you're going to get a break here in the middle. We'll see how you feel, day two or whatever. That is interesting, though. That's also one of those things that, like, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and it's just it could very easily go either way. You could see the idea behind sitting him right away and seeing how he feels after the practice round, or you could see the opposite and just get him right out there and see what happens. I think maybe he might like pick sort of like a layup for him, hopefully for day one.
Yeah, that would be nice. So in that middle foursome, Fowler Schauffele seems interesting to me because I think in my eyes, if Cantlay, Reed lose and they are paired together and they lose round one, I think Fowler Schauffele could end up being that second horse team that you see play all 5 matches. Schauffele, we know that Schauffele is coming in pretty good form over the fall. We know that this is his first cup, so I like that. Also, the Simpson-Woodland team, I think that could be another horse team as well that could end up playing at least 4 or 5, if not all 5 matches. Woodland has just been so consistent, and as has Webb. So that could be a really dynamic team. I would be really excited from a DFS purpose if they were paired together. I think that would make lineup building very interesting as well. So, okay, let's give our parting thoughts, golfers that we think are going to be sitting in round one, which basically means, based on our small sample size analysis, it is small, that you probably shouldn't play these guys. I'm going to go with Hao Tong Lee and CT Pan on the international side. As you said, I really think it's going to be more scripted over there. I think we've got a good grasp of the team. And then on the American side, I think it's going to be Kuchar, and I think it's going to be DeChambeau.
Yeah, I think both of those make sense. Definitely, I would think definitely DeChambeau. If maybe like you said with the health thing, it could end up being DJ, but I think both of those are good calls. I don't know that Kuchar. I don't think Kuchar has a prayer of playing every single round.
No, not this time around. Not with the field. So, all right, Matt. Well, thanks for joining me. This is actually probably one of our longer ones, but we do have a new format. Also, one more thing. The captain spot. Here's my quick analysis of it. I just want to give these parting thoughts and have you say it as well. It's going to come down to if you have a guy in your captain spot who's had the same teammate all 4 matches and they've won all 4 matches, it doesn't matter if you have that guy or his teammate. It's going to end up coming down to their singles match. And that's why not necessarily you need Justin Thomas in that captain spot, because Thomas could get matched up against Louis Oosthuizen in the Sunday singles, and that's a lot tougher match than, say, if Ricky Fowler was paired up with Justin Thomas the whole time, and Ricky Fowler's got Hao Tong Lee on Sunday singles. So just wanted to make that note there. Have you any thoughts about the captain spot? Or are you just basically saying, I'm going to rotate in the guys that I believe are going to play all 5 matches?
Yeah, I think obviously the guys that we mentioned as potentially not playing all 5 are just completely off the board. Like there's no way to play them. The 2 things that I'm sort of considering, the first thing is exactly what you said, and the second thing is trying, if you're making a bunch of lineups, trying to differentiate by picking the less heralded option of a team that you think could run well.
Yep.
And just trying to get access to, say it is, who are we just saying, Woodland and Simpson. That's not a huge price difference. But if you think they're just going to smash them playing Woodland in the captain spot, you're essentially getting access to, that extra $1,200 of salary because of his performance being linked. So that's kind of my thought behind it as of right now. Yeah,
and not afraid to leave salary on the table if that's the build that you're doing. If Woodland's going to go 5-0, then you want him in your captain slot regardless of having 4,000 salary left, even having Justin Thomas in the line. So good stuff there. Again, Matt, thanks. We will, unless DraftKings decides to come up with something new yet again, we'll see you for the Tournament of Champions in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.